There are a lot of things happening right now that can affect your gun rights for the next several decades. Tom Gresham's here to update us. Hey, welcome in. Gun Talk Nation is brought to you by Timney Triggers, the world's finest triggers, Armscor, Pyramyd Air, your number one resource for everything air gun, and Safariland. We save lives. So today, without further ado, we're bringing in the man who started all this nonsense. Tom Gresham, welcome in.
Hey, it's good to be here. Good to pick up on what's going on because there's so much happening right now.
There's a lot happening. So we thought this is a good time to check in with Tom. Obviously, most people listening to this probably know, but you are the host of Gun Talk Radio and, of course, my dad. But in the office, I just call you Tom. But just a little inside baseball for people listening. They're like, why doesn't he call him Dad? Well, because it's weird when the employee that we is like, hey, Dad said this. No,
exactly.
Dad said you have to do this.
Well, we've been covering a lot of this on the radio, which we do every Sunday. And, of course, we do it live so people can call in on Sundays. But then it also gets recorded and put out as the Gun Talk podcast.
Right.
So people can listen to it that way as well. But just kind of a heads up, if anybody has a question or wants to just get involved in the conversation, they can certainly call us when we're live. And it is 2 to 5 Eastern time on Sundays.
Sunday afternoons, every Sunday. So I wanted to talk about what's going on, but also for people listening, I wanted to give them a little bit of intellectual ammunition, maybe some talking points, maybe some marching orders of not just listening to this and being irritated at what Biden or the ATF or whoever is trying to do, but what can we do? Because we have to be vigilant about this. And I know it can be a little bit tiring and taxing because it feels lately like we're always saying, hey, you need to reach out to your representatives. Hey, you need to reach out to the ATF or whatever, but they can't let up.
No, and you make a good point. It wears you down if you are aware of all this. And, honestly, a lot of gun owners are not aware of everything that's going on, but a lot of people are. And you think, oh, they're coming after us. Oh, we're losing this, all that. But one way to get away from that feeling is to get involved and get active and actually make things happen. And then you have a sense of purpose, which is one of the best things you can have in life anyway. And the way you do that is simply to take action. It can be small or it can be big. It could be as small as, and I would hope everyone would do this, like right now, David Chipman is the Biden nominee to head up the ATF, and we're opposing that. And everybody should be contacting the United States senators. Yeah, I know. Even if you're in California, you still need to let them know what you're thinking to oppose this nomination. And I think this nomination is going to go south, but we don't know that. We always have to be involved. But, Ryan, to your point, if you are doing things, maybe you get involved in your state gun rights organization, it gives you a feeling of accomplishing something, and you don't feel so beat down of, oh, geez, they're coming after us. Oh, geez, what are we going to do? Oh, I think I'm going to go bury guns in the backyard. Well, first of all, that's stupid, because if you're burying guns in the backyard, you've already lost.
Absolutely. One of the things that Canada did this past year and a half, I guess, is they didn't ban AR-15s. AR-15s, you could own them with special licensing. Yes, they're harder to get, harder to own up there, but you can own them. And semi-automatic handguns. What they did is all they said was, you're not allowed to let them leave your house. Hey, we didn't ban them. You just can't let them leave your house. You can't take them. You can't shoot them. You can't take them to the range. You can't take them out into the woods. Nope.
Which is it's a de facto ban without a ban.
Yeah. We're not trying to take your guns. Well, it's accurate. They didn't take the guns. They didn't come knocking on doors. And I think people in the U.S. need to understand when we talk about some of those things, well, I'm not trying to ban your guns or I'm not trying to take your guns. They don't have to. And the whole burying them in the back 40, well, guess what? They have confiscated your guns because you're not using them anymore.
And fortunately in the U.S., we do have the Second Amendment. They don't have that in Canada, where we could challenge, if they said you can't take it out of your house, that we would challenge that as being a regulation that you cannot do. That's a taking, if you will, because we have keep and bear, and keep means you can own it, and bear means you can carry it, which means you can go shoot it. So, and of course, that's under discussion in a lot of courts right now. People say, well, we're not taking them away from you. You can own them, but you can't bear them. Well, no, you can't. It's keep and bear. It's both.
Right. Yeah.
So that's a continuous fight. And, people are saying, okay, so what do we do? Is the NRA still in the lead on the fight? Kind of yes and no. The NRA's ILA, Institute for Legislative Action, is actually still doing a lot of good work, even though the NRA itself is imploding due to the malfeasance, malfeasance of Wayne LaPierre and about half a dozen folks around him who have been sucking money out of that thing with a gargantuan-sized Hoover vacuum cleaner.
It's a great point.
For their own personal use.
It's a great point because you're right, and the state groups are doing their part, and NRA, ILA, they have reps in all the states or most places, and they're still working their butts off trying to get stuff done. And it's like, I don't know what's going on up there at the home office with Wayne, but we're still trying to fight for gun rights around the country.
Right. And, so everybody, every single gun owner needs to belong to one or more state organizations. Let me throw this out there. I'm going to throw out a warning here. There are some brand new state groups that have popped up. And unfortunately, a lot of them are affiliated with the National Association for Gun Rights, a group out of Colorado, which I think are a bunch of loons. We have witnessed them firsthand do a lot of damage to gun rights. The state groups that are affiliated with this group and the national group, where they target the wrong legislators. Their idea is if you're not 100% with us, you're 100% against us. And sometimes we'll have a legislator who is really good on guns, but occasionally they say, look, this is one I can't help you with. And you go, okay, we're not going to destroy you on this one because we know we're going to need your vote later. That's the smart way to play this. But this group goes out and tries to destroy them, runs ads against them. And we have seen several times these people who are generally good on gun rights and help us turn around and say, oh, if you guys are going to do that to me, then I'm not going to support you on any of your gun rights stuff.
Right.
It's a really dumb play. So choose your groups wisely. Do your investigation, particularly the NAGR. I'm sorry. I hate to do it, but I just label them not helpful. And that's the kindest thing I can say about it.
NAGR. So
National Association for Gun Rights.
Yeah. They're kind of a weird problem group that, we don't recommend. Now, obviously the NRA has their issues right now. They're still the big one, and they're still in Washington doing their part. But then you've got Second Amendment Foundation, you've got Firearms Policy Coalition, and then of course the state groups. And there are certain state groups who are really working their butts off. You've got Cal Guns, you've got the Buckeye Firearms, you've got every state has a group pretty much.
Yeah, Michigan Gun Owners does a good job. Obviously, Gold in Massachusetts. In Louisiana, the Louisiana Shooting Association does really great work very quietly. It doesn't make a lot of splash. It just gets things done in the legislature, and all of a sudden things get done. And they go, wow, that was kind of cool. So, yeah, sometimes you can do things without drawing attention to yourself. Rather than stand up and become a target, just stay low and get it done.
And sometimes that's more effective if you're trying to get politicians on your side to do it in a meeting and talking, as opposed to yelling through social media or through media outlets out there.
Right.
They'll actually, have a conversation with you. I wanted to take a second. We have some companies that make this show possible, and I actually have a special deal in here too. So if you just give me 1 minute, Gun Talk Nation is sponsored by CrossBreed Holsters. Find a variety of holsters for all types of carry, firearm configurations at crossbreedholsters.com. Everything from the Super Tuck, Mini Tuck for small guns, the Reckoning, the Snap Slide holsters, belly bands, gun belts, inside the waistband, outside the waistband, in your bag or across your chest. Find one today at crossbreedholsters.com. Also, ATN, the future of optics. ATN recently launched their upgrade program featuring current ATN X-Sight optics. If you're an owner of one of those, you have the opportunity to upgrade to the latest X-Sight models. Their full warranty is included. You get free shipping, and it's fast and easy. Visit atncorp.com/upgrade program for all the details, or their first retail storefront at Grapevine Mall in Texas, Grapevine Mills in Texas. So you can look that up. Safariland, they're offering gear, apparel, hearing protection, armor. Of course, Safariland also works a lot with military and law enforcement. Their 575 IWB holster is designed to fit multiple firearms in one holster. It's available for slim fits, Glocks, Springfield, SIG, M&Ps, more. It's optics capable and offers fully adjustable cant and a grip lock system. Now listen up. Visit Safariland.com and use the code GUNTALK20Q3 for 20% off. That's GUNTALK20Q3 for 20% off. And then Springfield Armory. The newest addition to Springfield Armory's lineup is the Emissary. It's a pistol. It's a 1911, but it's designed for defense with custom grade features. And I've shot this gun, really impressed by it. It's a big, nice feeling, nice shooting 1911. Two-tone finish, blued carbon steel slide, stainless steel frame with squared trigger guard. Pretty cool. Wrapped around, grips fully wrapped in a grenade pattern texture for a firm grip. And you can find out more at springfield-armory.com. So back to it. The gun rights side of things, and let's talk about the ATF and what's going on, because we have the David Chipman nomination, which let's just real quick, he's horrible. We don't want him, okay? He's freaking horrible. He's a gun banner. He hates you. He hates guns. If he gets in there, and of course Biden doesn't care. I mean, he'd be like, hey, if we could get this passed, it'd be like amazing. It'd be horrible. And then they're also trying to do some other things. There's some proposals and going on as far as some other regulations right now, right?
Exactly. Well, for just a second, let's stay on David Chipman. He's, of course, a spokesman for the gun ban lobby. It'd be like putting Wayne LaPierre in charge of the ATF. I mean, it makes no sense at all, except it makes sense if you want to turn loose a radical activist who would be regulating the firearms industry. And he's already called for the ban on semi-automatic firearms. I mean, it'd be nuts. His nomination is in trouble, but we want to make sure it really gets in trouble. And that's why people need to be going back and calling even if you've already called your senator's offices, you need to call them again. They need to hear from again that, hey, people are still watching. We still oppose David Chipman. And anyway, that's just one of those things that it's like takes 2 minutes to make the call. It's really easy to go online and find out what the phone number is for the U.S. Senate. Call that, ask for your senators, call the two senators' offices. You'll get some legislative aid, and you just say, I would like to ask the senator to oppose David Chipman for head of the ATF. Appreciate your time. That's all you got to say.
That's all you have to say. In fact, if you want to do it in a fun way, just for fun, for funsies this week, you can call the United States Capitol switchboard. And I'm going to give you the number right now. It's 202-224-3121. And you can call the switchboard operator and just say, hey, this is where I live. And they'll connect you to the senator's office and actually get to talk to somebody, maybe. I mean, probably not the senator, but someone on the staff.
No, exactly right. And, and they're making a list. They're writing it down somewhere. And they're saying, we got this many calls. And clearly, if it's, Nancy Pelosi or, that's the House. But if it's Chuck Schumer, you're not going to get anywhere with that. But, it's worth doing because doing nothing is never an option. So there you go. You mentioned ATF and what they're doing. They're actually now trying to redefine what a gun is. Of course, they've been doing that for a while. Think about bump stock. They said this piece of plastic is a machine gun. And
depends on what the definition of is.
There it is. What's interesting, though, is that the bump stock ban is still being challenged in court. Mm-hmm. And Clark Aposhian's lawsuit challenging that is moving forward. And they are now trying to take it directly to the Supreme Court. So, I mean, everybody thinks of that as done. It's not done. And the idea that the ATF can simply by itself reclassify something to be a gun that's not a gun, That's what really is at the heart of the matter. And so we'll see. This is going to be very interesting. They're also trying to do something about so-called ghost guns, basically homemade guns, which have been legal in this country. Oh, gee, since before we had a country. Mm-hmm. It's always been legal to make your own gun. And now they want to say, actually, what do they call the precursor elements of the gun? So basically, a block of steel could be called a gun if they decided to do that. So we're fighting that as well. These are the kind of things that, if you are on the mailing list from Second Amendment Foundation, Firearms Policy Coalition, and yes, the NRA, you'll be informed on all this. I think obviously we talk about it on Gun Talk Radio as well.
It's a good thing that's a great tool. Keep informed, and then you'll know what's going on. You also maybe know some talking points. When you do call the Capitol switchboard or email your representatives. Question, I wanted to go back to, if I know that if someone's saying, well, my senator is Nancy Pelosi, I guess I'll still call, but I don't think it's going to make much traction. And then I've got it on the other side where I've contacted my senators and they've both responded to me, which is kind of awesome. And they go, oh yeah, there's no way I'm going to confirm this guy. But is there, are there particular representatives that we should be reaching out to?
Yes, Joe Manchin, West Virginia.
And can you do that if you're not from West Virginia? That's probably something going. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, you can. Well, first of all, obviously, if you're in West Virginia, you need to be hammering Joe Manchin's office because he could be the key to all this deal. But even if you're not, it's worth calling Joe Manchin's office and just saying, I don't live in West Virginia, but I just want to thank the senator for what he's been doing and ask him to please oppose David Chipman for ATF head. Maybe that doesn't make a lot of impact. If you and I do it, it's not a big deal. But if they get 1,000 calls like that or 10,000 calls like that, it has an impact. So all of this is worth doing. None of it is worthless.
Well, and I can tell you, we get thousands and thousands of listens to this show. So you guys and gals listening to this, we need your help. And that's the crazy thing. We're not talking about 1 million calls to Joe Manchin. I mean, you're right. If their office got 1,000 calls in a week, I bet you they go, damn, that's the most calls we've got on any issue this week.
Mm-hmm. No, exactly right. And it's one of those, you're always trying to find a way to restate this in a way that gets people's attention, because people just hear this as nagging. Oh, you got to do this, you got to do that. And I always tell them, look, somebody has to pull the wagon. And I get it. It's, in every group, there's 10% of the people who do 90% of the work. I understand that. Well, you know what? You could be part of that 10% instead of being the 90% that sits on his butt and let somebody else do the work for you. And I guess the question is, when you look in the mirror, you say, am I willing to let somebody else do this work for me? Or could I invest 5 or 10 minutes, which is really all we're talking about, to actually make a difference? And let me tell you, once you start, it feels good to start doing it, and you want to do more, you want to get more involved, and you get up in the morning saying, what can I do for gun rights today? I'm going to put 5 minutes, I'm going to put 15 minutes on it each day to do something. And Linus, one other thing I wanted to mention here, you talked about the intellectual ammunition. Unfortunately, some of our folks on our side, let's just put it really bluntly, they say stupid stuff. And when you say stupid stuff, sometimes you're ineffective, sometimes you're worse than ineffective. You're actually working hard for the other side. For instance, the first person who says, well, that's what Hitler did, you are absolutely not going to be listened to. You may be factually correct, but there are certain ways that you can argue and make a point effectively, and there are ways that are not effective. And the things that you say to your buddy when you guys are sitting around back and forth, those are not generally the effective ways of making a point to someone on the outside who you're trying to convince. And that's where getting your talking points, like you mentioned, from the mailings from NRA, Second Amendment Foundation, Firearms Policy Coalition, being informed, listening to Gun Talk, listen to how I put things on the air, then you just basically repackage that and use those talking points. And it's usually 2 or 3 is all you need. Say your piece and then get out before you keep talking, because the more you talk, trying to figure out something else to say, you're liable to wander off into no man's land.
Yeah, I was going to say, stay on message. Have your couple points you'd like to make. Be polite, and then get out of there. Leave on a high note, as George Costanza would say.
Exactly right. Circle around. I do want to say that this is an amazing time. You mentioned the emissary, Springfield Armory. We had Rob Latham on the radio show last Sunday. People could still pick up that podcast. And he was talking about the design of that and how he pushed, for that. And it's interesting. He was talking about that square trigger guard on that one.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's the first 1911 Springfield's made with a square trigger guard. And it's if you are one of those who put your finger up on the front of the trigger guard, you'll like it. If you don't, you may not care, but there are a ton of people who shoot that way.
Yeah. And it's a nice shooting gun. Lots of new guns coming out. I think what's happened is last year for the past probably 15 months or so, everything was sold out, as we all know.
Mm-hmm.
And the companies, a lot of these companies, they kind of switched direction to go, okay, let's just make the 5 or 6 products that are the big top sellers that are high volume. We may have ideas for new products, but we just can't dedicate a lot of time to that right now. And they've been sitting on the shelf for a little while, and we're starting to see some new things happen.
Oh yeah, there's been a lot of cool things. I mean, was it the new Shield?
Yeah, the Shield Plus.
I call it the high cap Shield. It's that's an amazing pistol, and it just seems like every week or two there's something new coming out now. And of course, 3 weeks now? 3 weeks from now, we're at the NRA show, and I expect there to be a lot of announcements coming out of gun companies at the NRA show.
There will be a lot of new products right before it too. We know about a couple that are coming in the next couple of weeks, so definitely stay tuned to what we're doing. I think we'll have some video on some of it. There'll be some neat stuff that you're going to like. What about some wins? I know we've actually made progress on the gun rights side of things in the past several months and in the past year. I mean, there are some good things happening.
Think of 2 different arenas where that's been happening. First of all, look at constitutional carry, where you do not have to ask for government permission to carry a gun for your own protection. We now have 21 states that have constitutional carry, Texas being the last one, and that's huge. So you have people who can carry legally without having to get a permit. We still encourage people to go get training and be safe and all of that. But at its core, you don't have to ask permission to exercise a constitutional right. So that's a big win. And the other place where we're winning a lot right now is in the courts. Probably the biggest one recently is out in California. Judge Benitez ruled that California's assault weapon ban, and I use the term advisedly, it's a ban on semi-automatic firearms, is unconstitutional, flat out. He just said, this is unconstitutional. You can't do it. It's been appealed, of course, to the Ninth Circuit. Fully expect this to end up in the Supreme Court, which leads us to the big case that the Supreme Court has agreed to take, and we'll be hearing the arguments on that this fall, and that's the New York case, where New Yorkers really can't carry guns for protection.
Right.
And that's being challenged as a violation of the Second Amendment. And it's always risky trying to make a prediction on how the Supreme Court's going to rule on anything. But I think if we're ever had a really good chance of winning a big case, I think this is it. I think I'm going to predict we win this one, and it's big.
Wow. Do we know when they're going to hear that and when they would release the findings or their judgment on it?
Yeah, we don't know either right now. Could be October, November, even December. In general, you don't know until a week or two before that you find out. But sometimes to give it a little bit head start on that. As far as once they hear it, when they release it, that's interesting. Sometimes they hold on to the big cases and release those the last week, which could be spring of 2022.
Okay.
They don't necessarily release that right off the bat, even when they have decided it. So, right now we don't know. I'm going to keep following that. I'll be reporting on that as it goes along. And depending on when it is, if if it's not in the middle of hunting season, I may try to get to D.C. to actually watch them argue this case.
It's always amazing to when you read the arguments on this stuff of what's covered. And it's also probably seen in person. There's a little bit of reading between the lines on how they ask the questions and where this thing is headed.
Right. And of course, we have the ultimate gift from Donald Trump, which is the reshaping of the Supreme Court. He put 3 justices on the Supreme Court. Doesn't mean that all 3 of them are always going to rule the way we want. In fact, you probably wouldn't want that. You want them to actually be ruling on the law, not based on ideology.
Right.
But in this case, if they're basing their judgments on the law, we have the Second Amendment, which means the right to keep and bear arms. And I think we're on pretty solid ground.
So, Tom, take a minute, because we are hearing a renewal of talk about sanctuary states, sanctuary cities, and there's a new one going around with Texas of saying, and people are asking about it. Is this real? Can I really do this? Manufacturing your own silencer, and you don't have to ask permission from the ATF. I know people want to know, is this real? Is this something I can do? What do they need to know?
All right. The whole idea of Second Amendment sanctuaries, states that pass laws that say a gun made in our state that doesn't pass out of the state is not regulated by federal law, and you don't have to do any of the federal law stuff on it. Texas just passed one that said suppressors that are made in Texas that don't go outside the state, you don't have to do the tax stamp, you don't have to do the $200, you don't have to get it registered with the federal government. Please, people, be smart, do your research, and understand that these are political statements from the steps of the Capitol. That's all they are. They're not effective laws. The ATF continues to issue warnings to people in those states. Look, federal law still applies. Mm-hmm. If you buy a silencer, you must go through the NFA process. If you are making guns, and you can make guns for yourself, but if you're making guns for resale, then the federal laws apply. I don't care what the so-called sanctuary laws are in your state or your city. They are a way, as people say, it's a way of sending a message that, look, we reject the idea of, what you guys in D.C. are doing. I understand that. But don't get so caught up in it that you put yourself in legal jeopardy by following this advice. And there are going to be some yahoos out there who are going to build their own silencers and say, I can do whatever I want to because the state said I can. And when the ATF guys come and kick in the door and put the handcuffs on you and take you to federal court, not state court, you're going to be in a world of hurt.
Yeah, I'll sue them. To sue them, you have to get standing, and to get standing, you probably going to have to get arrested. So who wants to volunteer?
There it is. There it is.
Y'all be careful out there.
That's right. Pick your battles and don't be stupid and quit this chest thumping, He-Man, I don't care about you guys. Sometimes it's better to be the gray man, the quiet man who just gets things done, but don't call attention to yourself.
Don't take legal advice from politicians or gun store clerks.
Or people on the internet.
Or people on the internet, yes. Thanks for being with us, Tom. Thanks for being with us and updating everybody. And I think everybody out there, you've got your marching orders. You need to stay up on this. Call the Capitol switchboard, 202-224-3121, and do your part. Hey, it's fun. You get to, be active and get some stuff done instead of just complaining on social media, right?
There you go. And actually be effective.
That's right. That's it for us. We'll see you next time on Gun Talk Nation.